Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Pipe Wrench, and by Junk Be Gone, and by the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Junk Be Gone studios for the Sports Source. We have a packed show for you today. We got 7 guys in the house, all UT football. Well, there's one segment of Georgia football, but that relates to Tennessee football. So tons of Tennessee football that we're going to be talking today. I appreciate you joining us. It's interesting. My father was a minister, and I finally wound up behind my pulpit of my own here on the new set. This first segment of our show is brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. Folks, if you need an attorney, the best thing to do is find a local attorney, someone who knows the local system, the local judges, everyone from the bailiff to the opposing attorneys. So the place to start is the Garza Law Firm. Right here for years and years, their ads are local that you'll see because they're local. They're not coming to you from Birmingham and Nashville and Memphis like so many of the ads you see on television. The Garza Law Firm is local. These are the guys to call, trusted for many years in East Tennessee. Check them out, garzalaw.com this week. All right, welcome into the Sports Source. We have 7 guys, as I said earlier, but we're starting with just 4. Right over here we have Marlon Walls, VFL, and new assistant head coach at Powell High School. Congratulations to that, Marlon.
Appreciate that.
And then we have Jimmy Himes right here back with us from Sports Animal 99.1. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
David Ubben right here from The Athletic, back from Charleston. I hope you enjoyed your trip. There are worse places to go.
There are.
Good to have David Ubben with us today. All right. Let's start by talking a little bit about a topic that I've had thrown at me recently. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. The coaching staff talked about it this week, and that is the positive culture inside the Tennessee football program.
I think it always starts with the head coach. It's the culture he's always talked about. Before he ever talks about wins and losses, he always talks about mindset on how you're going to go attack the day. He's always the first one, the players see when they enter the building, getting ready to go into meetings. I think that means a lot, and he's always got a smile on his face no matter what happened the last day. And when you talk about culture and positive energy, you really find out how, true that is after a player had a bad day, a unit had a bad day, a position group or a unit, or just in general, the team didn't do as well as we want. How do you approach the next day? How do you approach the next, team event that you would be doing? And I think Coach Hype does a great job of forget the last play, let's go win the next play. And the kids, they bought into it. They really believe it. Even us as coaches that are, old school guys that like to keep, knocking on that door, like, we got to get this right, the kids can still do it with a smile on their face because they really do believe that the best is yet to come.
Very good. Brian Jean-Marie, UT linebackers coach. There's nothing negative to take from that. That's positive. That all sounds very good. The team has bought in. The assistants are all kind of marching in one direction, although we'll debate that here in another segment. But for the most part, it feels good. So I'm not saying that's not a positive. I'm just not all buying into it myself yet because, David, I've seen this play before. There was a previous coach who came in here, and everybody over there inside the athletic department loved him. They talked about how the positive culture got rid of that mean old Dooley, and Butch Jones is just the greatest guy in the world. And then a few losses came, pressure went up, pressure bust pipes. Things change. So are you buying in a little more than I am, or are you where I am that, we'll wait and see on this whole positive culture thing?
I think, culture might be the most overused word in college football entirely. I feel like in a lot of ways it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because really good teams that have really good culture, they have a lot fewer down moments. You see that a lot. And when you lose a game, you don't lose 2. And so there's credit to that for year 1. I mean, what's been the low moment of the Heupel era, like losing to Pitt or Ole Miss? Like, neither of those things are really, low moments for anyone. I think they'll be tested. Certainly, the schedule is always unrelenting at Tennessee, so we'll see. But, it's just, I think, again, there's credit to seeing how year one went and that you didn't have those low moments. But again, I think culture is a lot of talk, and I think you will see it when you are tested. But if you can make it through a full year, especially considering the circumstances that Josh Heupel took over, without having to test your culture, that in itself sort of is proof of concept in some ways.
Yeah, I think the culture was really good last year, and I think that was evidenced by the fact that there were a lot of players previously that didn't even want to go to practice, didn't want to go lift weights, and didn't enjoy being around the coaches in their offices. That changed, and you could see the players having fun. You could see the players enjoying being out there. And look, it's hard enough to play football. It can be even harder if you're not having a good time playing football. So I think that's a big part of it. Now, if they lose 3 in a row, is there going to be some potential bickering around it? Could it be some backup guys saying, hey, I need to be playing, I need to be in lineup? We haven't seen that yet. Will we see it this year? I don't know. But to me, I'm like a little bit wait and see on that, although I do like the culture right now.
Yeah, to this point, you have to like what you've seen and heard. Yeah.
I would tell you as a former player in that locker room, I've been a part of some great cultures where you've got Eric Berry and Chris Scott and Jock McClendon. But then I've also been a part of some horrible cultures where guys we're literally holding meetings in our dorm room saying, hey, we're going to stick with this thing. I think right now culture is a underrated thing inside of a locker room. Culture allows you to on a 3-game sled for your leaders to come back into the locker room and say, hey, we're good. Now we're being tested. How do we respond? Whereas if the culture is bad, after that first game, honestly, guys are already starting to get at each other's neck. We're not believing in what Heupel was saying. So I think culture is an underrated word because culture kind of allows you to right the ship almost. And so we have a great culture right now. I've seen that with my own 2 eyes. But I do think it's a little bit underrated how important culture is inside of a locker room.
Well, I think he did a great job, Heupel, I'm speaking of, and the whole staff. Last year, you came in, half the team has transferred out. He knew most new coaches come in, and I've used this before. Pat Ryan referred to when Johnny Majors came in, it was the baton death march. You lay down the law and you scare off all the weaklings, and now I'm going to build my team. Heupel couldn't do that. You couldn't run people off last year, but you needed everybody to stay. And it became an offseason of let's watch the Super Bowl together. Let's play dodgeball. That's what they needed. That's great. Yeah. It worked. What's interesting about the positivity that he brings, he's not Dick Vermeil in terms of his press conferences. He's not a guy who's teary-eyed. He's not rah-rah, always giddy. But he kind of conveys that to the team, obviously, because it filters down. They've picked up on it, even if he's not, dancing on tables over there at the press conferences.
Yeah, I think, again, it's a results business. And I think Marlon hit on something, too. When you talk about culture, again, I think the proof's in the pudding. And you look at 2 things for me. One, is there a belief in the sort of, central leadership, the team leadership, the coaching staff? Are guys, when they're leaving the facility, grumbling and, on the group text, like, these guys don't know what they're talking about? Do you see that? You haven't seen that. And also, your potential. Are you tapping into the potential? Are you close to how good this team could be? Last year's team, I mean, goodness, I don't think you could say they were anything further than a couple inches away from their ceiling. So that, again, results business. It's hard to have any qualms with what you've seen from Tennessee over the first, 2 years of the 18 months of the Heupel era.
It's good to this point. It's just tough times are coming. Tough times come for everybody that's not named Saban. Kirby Smart's going to get them at some point. They come for everybody. To me, that's when the proof's in the pudding. That's when we'll find out how does Heupel react to that, how does the staff react to that, and then what do the players take from that?
It's amazing Alabama held it together when they were reloading.
Yes, a rebuilding year last year. Perfect example.
I want to give you a good example, too, of what I think would be culture. And I remember and you remember this, too, back in 2004, Tennessee got blown out by Auburn. So after the game, Kevin Burnett got in the press conference and said, we're going to play Auburn again in the SEC championship game. And everybody's like, are you kidding me? And guess what? They did. That's the only team that Tennessee lost to in the SEC that year. But you had a leader that stepped up and said, hey, we're okay. We're going to be fine. And they were. Now, the next year, in 2005, they were preseason number 3. They had a quarterback battle. They lost their culture, their chemistry, and they had a losing record. Yep. It can be fleeting.
Yes.
So we'll see where this one goes.
I say this, and it's a cliche thing, but we've always told in the locker room the game is 80% mental. And so kind of going back to Kevin Burnett, like in his mind, culture-wise, we wasn't supposed to lose that game. We needed to lose that game, but I guarantee we'll see him again. And that's culture. That's 80% mental. If the guys are believing in the system and understand what the coaches are trying to ask them to do, and kind of holding each other accountable, it's almost priceless, honestly.
Belief is powerful.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, good deal. Let me tell you what's coming up throughout the rest of the show. We're going to talk about fall camp buzz. We'll start that next. We'll talk offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. Gone back and taken a look at Josh Heupel's defenses at UCF and then last year at Tennessee. We'll talk about his defensive history. Season ticket sales are booming. You talk about positive culture. There you go. The fan base is all in on this thing. TV viewers and what they say about UT's brand, the latest on UT recruiting, and much, much more. When we come back, though, let's start by talking about the offensive line, the battle at left tackle. Is there any chance somebody moves back or forward, back to right tackle, back to left tackle? They move in here, there. It depends on which coach you talk to. That's next on the Sports Source.
Away from home? Watch the Sports Source live at WATE.com.